Welcome to Real Estate Investing Abundance, the show for busy, fulfilled professionals like you to learn how to develop financial independence built on solid, passive real estate investments. Now, here is your host, Dr. Alan Lomax.
Hello, enlightened investors. Delighted to be back with you again today. And today we're going to take a look at being our own banker because all of the other bankers suck. So Drew White is a former pediatric oncology nurse turned modern wealth consultant for real estate investors, business owners, and athletes. He teaches people the infinite banking concept and strongly believes everyone should become their own banker because all of the other bankers suck. Drew wants to bring banking back to the you and me level. Graduating nursing school with a debt of $150,000 plus in student loan debt led Drew down a path to entrepreneurship, real estate investing, Bitcoin, and infinite banking. And Drew is one of the millions of brilliant young people in the United States who are being punished because of their brilliance. The United States is the only country in the world that does that puts our brightest and best in slave debtry. So welcome to the show, Drew, and share with us a memorable experience from your formative years that helped you to be who you are today.
Thank you for having me on, Alan. I'm excited to be here. So the story I'd share was, started in that bio. I didn't really know what I was doing. I thought I'm going to become a pediatric nurse. And so I become a nurse, and my dad tried to warn me, this seems like a lot of debt for someone who's not going to make that much per year. And I was like, oh, it's fine. Hospitals will pay it off, right? And no big deal. And so I graduated, and I remember, he was a pastor. He didn't have a background in money, but he knew a little bit about Dave Ramsey. So he sits me down and helps me figure out a budget and shows me like, all right, you're going to be making about $35,000 to $40,000 a year to start. And we kind of slowly realized like about half my income's going to paying down this debt. That's, at this point that I kind of realized, what did I just do to myself? We won't go too in depth on why an 18 or 19-year-old was allowed to make such a terrible decision for his life, but I did it. And so I went to Dave Ramsey. He's got the Gazelle pay off your debt very intensely way. I'm not as big of a Dave guy now, but I share that because if I hadn't found that and started reading everything I could and hadn't had that debt, it wouldn't have led to where I am today and what I do now and teaching, modern wealth concepts and infinite banking. But it really led me down that path. And the Dave way, when I got to zero, which I did it pretty quick, and why I'm not a huge fan of him as much anymore is I didn't really know anything about building wealth. I was like, now what? I'm at zero. All I know is scarcity and, eating ramen and all the things that Dave teaches and even extreme couponed at one point, so I didn't really know about wealth. And so that was a whole nother journey, but that debt kickstarted. It was, about a 10-year journey for me. And I'm no longer, I gave up my nursing license just over a year ago and I had a great time doing it, but it just wasn't for me long-term. And so that debt is really where it all started for me.
Well, you're certainly not the only one who found themselves in that situation.
Yeah.
It isn't really naivety. It isn't stupidity. It is just the way the system is set up here in the United States. And we need to do something about that. And that is one reason why the United States used to lead the world intellectually and in so many different ways. And if you look back at the Nobel Prizes, it was the United States that dominated that field year after year after year after year. That has been shifting in the last several years. And the Nobel Peace Prize, not just the Peace Prizes, but the Nobel Prizes are going to people in other nations these days because other nations support their educational systems much better than the United States does. But tell us about the banking system, how it works, and why banks aren't a safe place to store our money.
Yeah. So this is, I would say opposite of what we're traditionally taught about money. You just kind of grow up saying, I'll put money in a bank, right? And that's what you do. And you see the advertisements from a very young age, get a credit card. You need to get a credit card when you're 16 because you got to build up that credit. And so I think what a lot of people don't know is how fractional reserve banking works and how when you put your money in a bank, they go out and they're allowed to legally loan it out 7 to 10 times, And so they take your money, they give you peanuts on the dollar, and then they go make a ton with your money, you know? And I just have this example with someone today who was talking about them making 5.2% while they're giving you 0.2. And honestly, 0.2 is generous. And so most people look at that and they say they made 5% more than me, big whoop. But really, all they did was, you know, give you $20. That was their expense. And say on $10,000, they went and gave you $20 and they went out and made 520 with it. Well, so their expense was 20, their income's 520. That's not 5%. You can do the math. 520 divided by 20. They made 2,600% off you. So why I'm a big fan of infinite banking is the best business in the world. So we look to copy it by creating our own bank using, it's a pretty unique vehicle in that we use specifically designed whole life insurance from a mutual insurance company. So it's not your traditional whole life insurance product. You know, it's focused on cash value and the benefits that you get from putting your money in that contract, which we can get into, but it's, you know, you get tax-free guaranteed growth. You can use that money and you can use it to go buy cash flowing assets, and the compounding in that insurance policy and your premiums and your cash value can never be interrupted either. So you can, you know, go put it to work and put it somewhere where it's safe and always going to grow tax-free, and you get the benefits instead of, you know, the bank getting the benefits of you storing your money there.
Drew, sounds wonderful. Just give us a little bit more detail on how it actually works.
Yeah. So I tell people we do the opposite of what like a traditional whole life insurance agent would do. So traditional whole life, they're going to sit down, ask you, how much death benefit do you want from this, you know, contract? So we're the opposite. We're looking to use this cash value to store it like a bank. So we're going to say, how much cash do you want to put into this system? And, you know, year over year. And then we're going to, you know, kind of fund it a little extra early on. And I don't want to get too in depth and lose people on that. And then what you're going to do is you're actually going to take loans against your cash value. And you're going to, you know, so the way that, you know, we specifically coach it is we say, go use that to buy cash flowing assets, go invest in real estate, go invest in businesses, buy businesses, et cetera. The reason, I mean, we can get into it, but just recently inflation, 9.1%. So you have to keep your money in motion. You don't want it stagnant, just sitting in this contract. And then the other reason is you can never interrupt the compounding going on in your cash value, because when you take that loan that I mentioned to go buy real estate or businesses, you're actually using the insurance company's money. So there's a lien on your cash value. So it continues growing at this, you know, tax-free guaranteed rate, but you're also going to put it to work outside your policy and it's going to grow outside there. So some people also refer to this as an and asset because it's growing in two places at the same time. So you'd want to, so, you know, the broad system is setting up this whole life contract, getting coached on how to set it up properly. And then even you can do some other really more in-depth things like creating legal loans and things like that between yourself and your LLC.
And so we purchase this whole life contract, then we can immediately turn around and lend to ourselves a portion of that contractual amount. And while that money is out being utilized on another asset, it is still earning the same dividends. That's what they call them, right? It's dividends. It's not interest. Is that correct?
Interest plus dividends. Yep. So like right now, every company is a little bit different, but around 3.75% interest, and you're going to get dividends on top of that.
Okay. And that interest and those dividends are being paid at the rate of the policy, not just what's left in there after you borrowed. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So whatever premiums that you've paid, you're getting, you know, that interest and dividends on that amount that you had in there, not what's left over after you take a loan out.
Okay.
So, you know, it's not like, you know, say a self-directed IRA, when you take money out for real estate, you've lost any compounding interest. You keep that compounding at all times going. And as you pay that loan back, it releases that lien dollar for dollar. And so then we say, just rinse and repeat, go do the same thing. Keep buying more cash flowing assets, keep the money in motion.
So you just briefly mentioned, Drew, how you could use this in conjunction with real estate investing. Just give us a concrete example of how utilizing your policy in terms in conjunction with your real estate.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, that's one of the things I love about the system. It's very unique. You can do so many different things. So, I mean, actually the most recent thing I actually did was I did a hard money loan to an investor who's doing land investing. And so, you know, he needed about 20,000. And so we worked out the terms and, agreements of the deal. And I took a loan from my policy, loaned it to him, and he's going to pay me back over time, you know, about like 15% interest. And so, I'm making money there, but I'm also making money in the policy. But we also have people who, even though I know interest rates have risen recently, they're still historically low and cheap. So we do have some people who they use the money in their system for a down payment on a multifamily deal or something. So maybe they put 100,000 down from their system, and then they pay that back with other people's money. So and then all the way to we have someone who does some pretty unique stuff where he has money set aside in escrow, and he puts that in here. And then he actually lends that money out to flippers. And does a hard money loan. So there's a lot of unique things that you can do with it. And there's some people who they just want to buy the whole property with that money in there instead of use bank money. And then the other question I do get a lot that I'll add to this is, how quickly can you get the money? And so you can get it in 1 to 3 business days if you need it quickly. If you don't need it quickly, you can say ACH transfer 7 to 10 days or something. And I've had loans that I've requested in the morning and gotten in the evening. So once your premium check has cleared into your account, you can have access to that very quickly.
Well, you started out flipping mobile homes, and you switched from flipping mobile homes to actually investing in mobile home parks. Take us down that journey.
Yeah. So I still had kind of a debt scarcity mindset. And so I heard everybody said you need to get into real estate to build wealth. That's what all the wealthy people have done. I didn't understand debt and leverage yet. And so I was, well, how can I get into real estate cheap? And so I was researching all of this stuff and came across this guy named John Fedro, and who's a wonderful person. And he was teaching people how to buy mobile homes for very cheap and then provide notes on them. And so I still have a few notes out there. I kind of got away from that because I felt like I was building this business after a couple of years, but it wasn't so passive. It was very active. And even there wasn't a ton of tax benefits on these notes. And, I mentioned inflation earlier. Well, a few of those notes, people are paying me anywhere from $300 to $500. Well, that same $300 to $500 from 2.5 years ago, they're getting a nice deal. I can't raise their rates or anything. And I'm losing on that one long term. So that was kind of when I realized I met some guys that were investing in parks. And so, we're actually, working on me passively investing with them at the moment. So I have not finished our current, deal, but we're working on it. And so, but that's I met these guys and they helped me see, you're kind of thinking too small still. You're thinking, you got to go this solo when really real estate's a team game and a team sport. So why not, partner up? And then I know quite a few parks in the area. So we've been working on sending letters and things like that, and me interacting with a few people that I know about buying them. So,
well, interesting trajectory there. Drew, share with us how it is that we can get in touch with you and take advantage of what it is you have to offer.
Yeah. So the easiest way is I have a website. So it's ibcdrew.com, which stands for Infinite Banking Concept Drew, ibcdrew.com. They can book a call with me in the top right-hand corner. And I also have a sign up for a free course to learn more if people would like.
And that information is also in our show notes. Drew, take us on your journey from nursing to modern wealth consultant.
Yeah. Some people, it's funny, think it just happens overnight. All of a sudden, here you are. For me, it really was exactly what you said, a journey. I tried a lot of things, and I kind of have taken this mantra of being a little playful with life. I think sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. And so I was willing to try different stuff because I knew for me personally, pretty quickly, unfortunately, after I became a nurse, I realized it wasn't for me long term. I loved working in pediatrics and I met some amazing people, but I wasn't even married yet. And I already was like, oh my gosh, I'm working weekends and holidays the rest of my life. And I wasn't really cut out for 9 to 5, to be honest with you. I like to golf and have some time freedom. And so I knew I don't want to go work in a clinic, and you make even less money in a clinic, and that's kind of when I really was like, I can't do this forever. I've got to find a way out. So I tried many things, I did some day trading here and there, and I did the mobile home thing. But along the way, I was just always open to learning and reading about money. And I really, as I paid off that debt, just kind of really realized I like learning about money. I like learning how different people make money. And I was very curious. And so just kept reading and slowly found my way while I was doing the mobile home thing to a book called Becoming Your Own Banker. And Becoming Your Own Banker is all about this infinite banking concept that I teach. And, I remember reading it and I was only halfway and probably didn't get the concept yet. And I said to my wife, I closed it and I said, I want to do this with our money, but I also want to teach people. And that always tied back into when I was a nurse. Nurses would always ask me for help because they saw that I had gotten out of debt, and they would ask me to help with budgeting and looking at their 401ks and things. And I knew I kind of liked helping people with money, but I didn't want to be a financial advisor. So found my way to that. I started it for us and we practiced it. And then it was like, okay, I want to teach people this. So that was kind of my long winding journey to where I'm at today with teaching people this.
Well, let's talk just a little bit more about these whole life policies. They're great and wonderful. I have them myself, and I'm not putting a downer on this, but there is one thing that people always ask about this. Why should I invest in this particular vehicle when it takes about 5 years to actually break even with your initial investment there due to the initial upfront fees and the fact that you can only borrow up to, I don't know, what is it, 85, 90% of what your initial premium is. So it takes about 5 years to actually break even on that. So why would anybody want to do that?
Yeah, good question. So for me, there's a lot of answers to that. For one, I think when you talk about the breaking even, that's the money going into the contract, and it's the baseline if you did nothing with it. If you did what we talk about with the banking and cash flowing, what you can actually see is that, we can show how people that we work with don't even end up paying their own premiums because other people's money is paying it after 4 or 5 years. I think it requires, which is kind of not common in today's society, a shift to long-term thinking, because people look at that and say, oh, wow, there's cash drag in year one that I have to overcome. And, oh, why would I do this when I could 10x my money elsewhere? But if you actually look at it long-term, you see, like I just showed someone yesterday, they wanted to do 100,000 in year 10, they put in $100,000 and they immediately have $140,000 locked in, guaranteed, that they can now go deploy. So, people kind of look at that, 3.75% tax-free guaranteed plus dividends is nothing. But that's the, power of uninterrupted compounding interest that you can now, that's 40%, right? Mm-hmm. And that gets better year over year, and it's all tax-free. And so, a lot of people doing retirement plans, qualified plans, try to ask somebody what rate you're going to get taxed at in the future on those. And now Roths, yeah, you're not going to get taxed, but we don't know. We don't know what rate we're getting taxed at, and we get penalized for using it. So for me, I get use and control of that money now. And I trust myself more than I honestly trust the government in 20 years to tell me what our tax rate's going to be at. So I'd rather have use and control of that money now and build retirement income with it. That's going to be in a tax shelter long-term. And that's always going to grow as I'm putting it to use. So yeah, there are, I would agree with you. There's a downside of that. But I think if you can shift to long-term thinking, you can see that, actually this benefits me and my family longer. And then we didn't even talk about, there's a legacy return of, have a death benefit that you're going to take care of your family when you pass someday. And you got to use all that money while you were alive. And then there's cool things people can do too, where they can take them out on their kids and grandkids and pass them down. So,
well, and there's one other advantage to that, because actually the minute that you put your premium down and you open that life insurance contract, your death benefit exceeds your premium. I don't know, what is it, by 5-6% or so. So if you immediately die, you'll get every penny of that back. Plus, I think it's 5-6% or so above and beyond that. So there's that advantage, the possibility of advantaging your heirs in that regard.
Yeah.
So you talked here about the aspects of this. And one of the big things about this is you've already mentioned that you can utilize this money now, where if it's in an IRA, a 401k, or any of those kinds of retirement vehicles, you don't have access to that until you're at the youngest age, 55. And you can possibly borrow against those, but that's actually just going out and getting a loan that you're going to be paying interest on. And there's all kinds of dilemmas in conjunction with that. Because if you do take your money out, you can use it, what is it, for 3 months or so, and then you have to put it back in there, or there's massive penalties. I don't remember exactly what they are. But with your whole life policies, you have that going and growing at the same time that you can use a significant portion of that to develop wealth in other ways and means. So, Drew, what are the 3 biggest tips for someone wanting to get started with the modern wealth building strategy that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So you want to be looking for a mutual insurance company, because a lot of these things that we talked about, being able to take a loan, those are rights that and participate in dividends. Those are rights that you get as a shareholder. So you want to be a mutual insurance company. Me personally, it was really important. And I say this to others, to find someone that actually practices this on their own and does it. I don't really want to learn from someone who doesn't even utilize it or do it. So that was big for me. And obviously I do that and help people with that, but I would make sure that, it's someone that practices. And there's even a practitioner site, the Nelson Nash Institute. If people were like, hey, didn't really care for that Drew guy today, but, want to find somebody, you can find someone in your area that way. And then I would say also be open-minded. That'd be the other thing. Don't just say, this is whole life. I've heard whole life is a terrible investment, not open to it. And personally, I don't look at it as an investment. What I'm going to do with my banking system, my whole life policy, that's investing. What I'm going to do with it. But putting it in there is, a tax shelter in a way. So I would say be open-minded, because if you're not, then you're just wasting your time. So be open-minded to a different way to look at money a little bit.
Well, great suggestion. Open-mindedness is always a good thing. And it's a challenging thing for humans, amazingly challenging. We do like our own opinions and our own ways of doing and thinking things. But I have discovered in life, it doesn't get you too very far. So open-mindedness is great. Enlightened investors, thanks so much for being with us again today. And I look forward to being with you in our next episode. Drew, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Alan. I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Estate Investing Abundance, brought to you by Steve Talker Capital, a company working for passionate professionals like you to develop financial independence built on solid, passive real estate investments. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steve Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steve Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures, great and small, flourish abundantly. For resources to develop your financial independence, connect with us at stevetalker.com.